Hello, I'm Tom Gensel, PSBA's Executive Director. As he's entering his last year in office, Governor Ed Rendell has now presented his final state budget. And this is an interesting time for any governor. You might say that he's going to be a lame duck, and yet this is going to be a lively debate around this state budget. And not just for what the governor has proposed, but for some of the politics that's going to be surrounding it. Remembering that there is a gubernatorial election, that every member of the State House of Representatives is up for re-election, and half the state Senate. And of course, in the background is the fact that we're still in a recession, so state revenues are lagging. But despite that, the governor has proposed a major increase in funding for public schools, 6.42% increase in the basic subsidy. That's over $350 million additional dollars for the primary source of state aid for public schools. This is in keeping with a longer-term commitment made by the governor and the legislature as a result of that costing out study a few years ago to get the state's contribution for basic education up to an appropriate level. So we commend the governor for making this proposal, and we intend to do everything we can to support its enactment. But at the same time, we're also concerned that some other education appropriations have been either level funded or in some cases actually reduced. One that we're particularly concerned about is special education, which has been level funded. Now, these are critically important programs for kids that have some of the greatest needs. They're also expensive programs. So when the state level funds special education, it has the effect of shifting a lot of those costs onto the local school property tax. The governor also talked, we were pleased to say, about pension reform. This is PSBA's top priority for the year. And the governor has talked about creating what he calls a longer-term strategy of doing a fresh start, re-amortizing the assets and liabilities of the retirement system. Now, this would actually reduce from the original projections the amount that school districts would have to pay into the fund in the short term, but in the longer term would actually raise them. So this is going to set off, we hope, a healthy discussion about what we do about the rate spike. And while there may be concerns and questions about what the governor has proposed, I think to his credit, he has challenged the legislature to deal with the school pension crisis. And that's one of the things that we believe the legislature has to put at the very top of its list. Where we might disagree with the governor, too, is we think in addition to dealing with the immediate rate spike, we also have to talk about structural changes to the retirement system for future school employees, which is, as I've talked with you before, about PSBA has proposed a change to a hybrid plan, a combination of a defined benefit, defined contribution plan. This is exactly the right time to do that. There are a lot of people retiring from public schools, and we can put new employees into a new retirement plan that would be less expensive for the taxpayers, but still fair to school employees. A lot more information about that is on our website at psba.org. The governor also talked about what happens when we lose federal stimulus funding. As you know, these were dollars that were provided by Congress to help shore up state budgets during the worst part of the current recession. But they're not permanent funds. They're going to go away. The governor has proposed creating a stimulus transition reserve fund. He's also called for creating a new tax on Marcellus shale and changing the state sales tax to generate revenues to create this new fund. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion about whether those taxes should be created or changed, but that's probably a separate question. What's really important right now is that the conversation gets started about what do we do to plan for the loss of those stimulus dollars. This is that cliff effect that we've been concerned about. If the legislature doesn't come up with this plan, school district budgets are in for a very rough time in a few years. So from all of this, we can ask the question, so what? So what do we do in terms of the budget? And I think there are a few key messages for local school board members and certainly for your state association. Number one, to support the governor's plan to increase funding for the basic subsidy. The 6.42%, the $350 million increase, is extremely important to make sure that we don't overly rely on the property tax at this critical moment and to help protect school programs. And to that point, I would say it's important for local school officials to give your legislators specific examples about how state dollars are helping you create important programs for students or to protect those that otherwise would have to be discarded. In addition, we need to talk to legislators about funding other education programs, particularly special education. We need to talk to them about pension reform, dealing not only with the rate spike, critically important, but also to talk about the long-term changes so that for future school employees, we have a different and more affordable retirement system. We also need to talk about other important issues such as how we fund cyber schools and charter schools, and also to hold on to the mandate waiver program that has been in effect for a number of years, has helped many school districts around the state, but is scheduled to expire at the end of June if no other action is taken. So we have a full plate, a lot to do this year, but your state association is actively representing your interests, and we ask for your active participation, working with legislators and with us to protect the interest of public schools. As always, we welcome your feedback and comments. Thank you for listening.